Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's so great to see people here tonight at Public Art Exchange 5. It's so exciting that, we're on our fifth round of this event, which is, a way to kind of scan public art cool stuff that's been happening across the country. This event is brought to you by PAX, Public Art Exchange, which is an open and transparent network for artists, administrators, and others interested or involved in the field of public art. So PAX promotes inclusivity and connectivity in the field of public art through resources, events, and discussion forums. My name is Renee Paichaki. I'm a big fan of PAX, and I work with Laura on the programming committee. And I'm going to turn it over to Laura to tell us about what's going to happen tonight.
Oh, where's my volume?
Hello, everybody. I am Laura McDermott, and I am coming to you live from Portland, Maine here. And I just want to give you a little rundown of how Exchange Place is going to work. We have 11 amazing presenters today. Each presenter has 7 minutes before I will cut them off. And just a little bit of housekeeping. If you're not speaking, mute your computer, mute your Zoom. Let's see or I'll mute you for you. So at 7 minutes, I will go ahead and say their time is up, but all of our presenters are ready to roll with some quick and informative presentations for you. And at that time, we'll have an applause sign and everybody will share their gratitude for our speakers. So
sorry, honey, headphones are not working.
Oh, I'm going to go ahead and mute some folks right now before we get started. All right, so our first presenter, and as our presenters get ready, we will read the bios for our presenters. So up first, we have Lori Hepner. So Lori, you can go ahead and start to share your screen. Lori Hebner is a public artist working with light, technology, and community collaboration to transform public space. Her projects, ranging from digital murals and sculptures to augmented reality and light-based installations, have engaged communities from Iowa to Hawaii, including commissions for UPMC, Mercy Hospital, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and the University of Nebraska at Omaha, with forthcoming installations at Pittsburgh International Airport and the Davis Avenue Bridge at Riverview Park. Based in Pittsburgh, she was the 2023-24 Penn State Laureate and is professor of integrative arts at Penn State Greater Allegheny. Lori will be presenting the installation of Run, Throw, Glide, and Breathe in Nebraska. So Lori, take it away.
Thanks, Laura. So hi, everybody. I'm Lori Hepner, usually in Pittsburgh, currently in New York. Hopefully my Wi-Fi is not strange for everybody, but saying that, I'm really happy to share this project with all of you today. This was a project that I started about a year ago in April 2024, and I was just there last week for the opening of this new space at the University of Nebraska, Omaha last week. So this is sort of the first time I'm really unveiling this project, even though I've been working on it for a year. So this space is in the health and kinesiology new buildings / building renovation for their health science collaborative. And the project was really kind of put out there that they were interested in kind of like creating artwork for this sort of hallway area in this building that used to be racquetball courts. So there's a bunch of hallway spaces. There isn't a grand sort of space in the building, but it was a really wonderful opportunity where I was able to create 20 pieces for them and hold a bunch of collaborative art making workshops last June when I went out to Omaha for a week. And so this is sort of the entranceway. I'm kind of sharing this with all of you. And what the entire premise of the project from my end was that I really wanted to have this collaboration take place with me and the community in Omaha, the people working in the department, the students, and also the people that would be kind of going to these spaces later on after they're open, because this is where there are a bunch of new faculty research labs that kind of span many different parts of kinesiology. So prior to this, I had done a bunch of other public art projects, kind of sharing you with my drawing with light practice. And so I've been using LEDs in collaborative art making to do real-time light painting with communities in many different settings, and then kind of taking the content that we make in those and kind of turning those and transforming those into art pieces. So these are some just examples of what these things look like before there's any changes, on my end after the workshops happen. But I did put together just a little brief, well, how does this light painting work? So I have been using both this 6-foot tall LED stick, as well as I've built my own wearable LEDs that I use in these workshops so that people are able to visualize movement and also kind of become the people in the artwork while also helping to create this, because I often hand off the LEDs to other people. So this is just an example from one of the students at UNO as we were kind of doing these light painting workshops last June. This is a little shot of me with my wearable LEDs from another project, but just kind of to show you, I've been working with communities in the public art practice where I do a lot of figurative work and kind of including the people in the artwork. My studio practice is much more abstract. And so I've been working on these sort of memories of landscapes and skyscapes. And so these are just a few pieces of what my regular studio work looks like. And this is from the project Something About the Sky, which is some of the work that'll be up at the Pittsburgh airport next year after it opens. But these were also made during my light painting wearable LEDs that I've been building. So kind of using skies as a metaphor for a lot of things. So that's kind of what the other part of my life as an artist looks like. But getting back into the project in Nebraska, all of these workshops they held with, there was a really kind of strong sense of working with people of all abilities. So they had these classes for kids last summer where they would come in do these movement workshops for a week. And they had both sort of full able-bodied children as well as children with other kind of movement differences as well. So it was actually one of the most inspiring things I've seen. We're having their grad students and their faculty kind of work with these people. So these are taken with some traditional photography because we didn't want to use the bright flashing lights in this case. And I created a lot of these using the photographs from all of the movement workshops. So this is kind of as we're walking down the hallways of this space where you're seeing a few of the pieces as they've been installed there. And kind of looking back towards the entrance to the building, you're also seeing some of the light painting on the left where they're a little bit more true to what it looks like at the time we're doing the workshops. So some of the work kind of goes back and looks, much more like it does when you're participating as a community member. But I've also really gotten into being able to sort of transform some of those things. So here is one of the pieces, and it looks a little bit small, but it's actually like 30 inches by 60 some inches. And so all of the work is created, the department wanted to have works that were framed. I was really interested in possibly doing some wall-sized wallpaper pieces, but they really wanted to have archival pieces in case they had to move to another location in the building or, if something would happen. So we kind of went with that. So there's a random amount of larger pieces and there's some smaller pieces. So this is one of my favorite pieces from the project because it really visualized what the people in those community workshops with the children were really doing last summer. And so they were kind of teaching kids to work with monster hands and kind of going down the hallways. In addition, they are also teaching in that department students that are going to be gym teachers and people that might be working at recreation centers. So they had a class on seated volleyball, teaching the students, well, how would you play volleyball if you didn't have movement in your legs? So they were kind of allowing the sports kind of to go across many different types of processes. This is kind of farther down the hallway as we get into some of the more scientific research labs where they're actually using LEDs, which you can see on the right, to kind of do brain wave work. On the left, you see somebody working at a microscope. And then we also have somebody working with the kind of exercise bike where they're doing the VO2 max trial. So there's a thing on your face. So that way you can't actually, you can see all the calories being made. So this is really close to those labs. The department really wanted the artwork to kind of make sense for the people that will be going and visiting these places. So the placement was done kind of with that in mind. And this is one of the bigger pieces. It's about 100 inches tall. That is for their UNO biomechanics pitching lab, which they're kind of world famous for. And people come to have their pitching analyzed from lots of different baseball schools. Omaha is a baseball town, I found out. But the project is sort of like these 20 pieces. It's the biggest project I've ever done. It's about an $80,000 project. Megan Dion was the art manager that was working with me on this project. And this is my friend and assistant in this case, Sandy, who's helping me hang some of the work into summer. So I know they're going to do the cut you off soon applause sign. But I'm just really happy to be able to share this with everybody. And hopefully I'll see you all soon.
With 5 seconds to spare, Lori. Yay! Thank you for presenting.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to unshare if it will let me.
Great. Renee, you want to introduce our next speakers?
I do. Yeah, Lori, thanks for sharing that great project and the connectivity between the science in that building and your work. I'm really happy to introduce our 2 next speakers, Nathaniel Anchetta and Dave Martin. So you guys are hopefully here and going to be sharing your screen soon.
There we go.
Are they here?
Hello.
Good?
Yes, we are here.
Hi, great. So Dave,
Here.
we just heard from Dave, so I'm going to introduce him first. He's an artist, filmmaker, and educator based in Los Angeles. He's the co-founder of Artists in Residence and serves as an assistant professor of visual art at California Lutheran University. Nathaniel Case Anchetta is a Filipino-American contemporary artist, designer, and curator. He earned his Master's of Fine Arts from the Art Center College of Design in 2016 with additional studies in Paris. And in 2019, he co-founded Artists in Residence, a nonprofit organization in Antelope Valley, California, focusing on site-responsive art and community engagement. Looking forward to your presentation.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Renee and Laura, for hosting this. Nice to see everyone. And Lori, really cool stuff. Excited to see what else comes after this. So we are Art in Residence. The project that we want to talk about today is called Western Lights. It's our 2024 iteration of this one. Going to start, here we go. A little bit about who we are. So we are an artist-founded, artist-run arts organization. Our mission is to explore the potential of public art in the Antelope Valley, California. The AV is a rural area north of Los Angeles County. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, there are a couple of really wonderful arts organizations and museums up there, but in terms of overall access to the arts, it's definitely underserved and doesn't have nearly the kind of resources that the city of Los Angeles does. So we founded this organization in the hopes of bringing some art experiences, some art resources, and just some public art to the Antelope Valley. We do this we have an annual exhibition with a rotating lineup of artists, and we have a holiday lights installation, which is what we'll be talking about today. And we also do workshops and public programming, partnering with both the cities of Lancaster and sometimes Palmdale up there in the Antelope Valley as well. Here's sort of a collage of some of our projects from 2019 through 22. Here you can get a sense of the environment that we're in. So as was mentioned, we do site responsive exhibitions. It's on a piece of raw land at the foot of the Antelope Valley Poppy Reserve. We try to invite artists who are kind of known in the LA scene to come up to the Antelope Valley and make work that responds to issues and things that are of interest to our audience. We've had artists like Beatriz Cortez and Rafa Esparza, Deborah Scacco, Nancy Baker Cahill, and of course Nate and myself have also made work and put it out here. And we often have performances and other kind of activations and live events as part of our programming out there as well. In 2023, we put up our first permanent installation on the site. It's a sculpture. It's called Home. Right? It's us kind of putting something permanent down in this piece of land. It was designed by Nate and myself, and the fabrication was handled by an organization called Lost Angels, which is a job training nonprofit up in the Antelope Valley as well. So we were kind of happy to partner with them and bring them in on that fabrication. Western Lights is our other yearly kind of series of installations. These are all light-based installations at night. We've wanted to always make these kind of a destination for locals. There's something for the community that folks can look forward to every year. We have been in the past historically limited as far as what we could do because we have no electricity out there, right? It's totally raw land. There's no development and no infrastructure. However, this past year, we were actually able to change that through a grant from the Helen Frankenthaler Foundation. From their climate initiative, we got a catalyst grant to purchase some solar panels and some battery packs to bring clean energy out to our property. And we also were able to do this in collaboration with a group called Solar Punks. They're a company based out of downtown LA who provides kind of solar charged batteries for art installations, live events, and in the entertainment industry. Nathaniel Anchetta was the lead artist and designer on this particular project, so I'm going to hand it over to him for these next couple of slides.
Awesome, thanks, Dave. So hey everybody, I'm Nathaniel Anchetta, co-founder with Dave for Art in Residence, and I'm gonna take you through Western Lights 2024. The title of the project is called Luminous Dwellings, and the fabrication we did in-house, and we do this with all of the Western Lights exhibitions. All of them are done in-house in our studio in Antelope Valley. Here are some images of how we put this one together. This one was a unique challenge because we were able to have access to that new technology and power on the site. So we introduced higher end LEDs versus Amazon strip lights that you can buy for a couple dollars that don't last too long. So this was definitely a jump from our previous exhibitions in previous years. Next slide. From that fabrication, we did the installation. And the installation process for this one was quite unique because we were leveraging the permanent sculpture that we had created in 2023 out here. It presented some unique challenges for those who have visited the Antelope Valley. The Antelope Valley is definitely a place where wind howls. So putting this up was a logistical challenge. And we did a lot of the measurements on the ground and then vertically pulled them up from a horizontal angle. And it was very much a team effort. We had family, friends that kind of came in and helped us make this work. So there was a really DIY aspect still to this large scale installation for this work. And then next slide. And then here's the exciting part. So this is where we were finally able to turn it on. And the unique aspect of this particular installation was we were able to introduce interactivity. So you can see in some of these videos, the interactive lights and the people inside it. And how it interactive was a little different from usual interactive light installations is that it reacted through sound. So the sound that you made, depending on how loud it was, would activate a series of light combinations. It would either follow you throughout the exhibition or throughout the space. At times, it may not even read your voice if it wasn't loud enough. So it had these elements of surprise through this kind of interaction process that that was really nice to see. And the next slide, this is a fun one. This is drone footage of the installation being zoomed out, and we just wanted to show like sort of where this thing is in the middle of nowhere. There is no lights around this spot at night, so this is the only luminous dwelling, to use the title, luminous dwelling that exists in that area. And this is a final shot here of the area and the space around it. So you can see it has a massive landscape, and this thing kind of sits as a kind of beacon in the landscape for the community to come and visit and experience their community and their landscape in a new and refreshed way.
And that's time. Way to go. Thank you both so much.
Yeah, right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next up, we have Jeremy Beliveau, the Public Art Project Manager for the City of Seattle Office of Arts and Culture. Jeremy, I'm going to start sharing your screen. I will introduce you. Jeremy is a lifelong artist, musician, and arts administrator who's called Seattle home since 2012. Originally from Massachusetts, Jeremy has a BA in anthropology from Bard College and an MA in museum studies from the University of Washington. As a public art project manager for Seattle's Office of Arts and Culture, they work to bring arts experiences to residents through the city's 1% for Art program. His areas of professional focus include tribal relations, intellectual property, sound, and digital art. In their free time, Jeremy enjoys recording electroacoustic music, playing with paint, and doting over their cat. Jeremy will be presenting adapting artist selection processes to meet tribal needs and government obligations. Jeremy, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Yeah, my name is Jeremy Beliveau. Like you said, I'm going to be talking about a pretty dense topic here today, so I'm just going to dive right in because we don't have too much time. So first of all, it's important to know that the city of Seattle occupies the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples whose ancestors have resided here since time immemorial. This acknowledgement does not take the place of authentic relationships with Indigenous communities who are very much still here, but is just the first step in resisting their erasure. Now, the city of Seattle, we work with multiple federally recognized tribes on a regular basis, and whenever possible, we seek to consult with them early and often, specifically on projects that may affect tribal interests. In 23, the Seattle Office of Intergovernmental Relations, OIR, convened a Tribal Nations Summit, which brought together multiple tribal representatives and city leaders. This has led many of us internally to make intentional steps to improve our systems when we work with tribes. Finally, another important thing to note is Initiative 200, which is a Washington state voter initiative passed in 1998, which added to Washington's law, but not its constitution, the following language: that the state shall not discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to any individual or group on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in public employment, education, and contracting. So what this means is that the city of Seattle cannot and does not make selections for artists based off of race. Now, a little bit about the site. Leak Teed, which later became Licton Springs, is a sacred site for Coast Salish peoples. It hosts an underground iron-rich spring and sits in northeast Seattle in the Licton Springs neighborhood. The site's colonial history involves multiple failed attempts at commercial exploitation starting in 1851, with the city obtaining the land in the 60s for a park, which completed with a restroom in 1974. The restroom also incorporated the first artwork commissioned by the city of Seattle through the 1% program in 75. In 2019, the site received a city landmark designation, which is also incredibly notable for being the only Indigenous and only non-architectural city landmark in Seattle. Finally, in 21, an electrical fire destroyed both the restroom and integrated artwork beyond repair. The city filed an insurance claim, which funded the project that brought me here today. And then after community outreach and internal discussion, it was decided that a new artwork should be made to better represent the Indigenous significance of the site. And there's a picture of the spring right there on the right for you. And a couple of pictures of the original artwork, Untitled, 1975 by Frederick Anderson. It's a shallow relief, or it was a shallow reliefed carved cedar panels. The artist was a painter and a professor, and the artwork is not really of note past its significance to the 1% program. So what happened? Following the fire, Seattle Parks and Recreation began the pre-design process, which led them to initiate tribal consultation through the Office of Intergovernmental Relations. Invitations were sent out to 6 federally recognized tribes to consult about the project, considering the importance of the site and the community desire for Indigenous artwork. The artwork was included as one of the possible consultation topics. Consultation was accepted by Snoqualmie tribe to discuss the project. Discussions about artist selections and how to go about that, we ended up hitting a bump in the road. So what did Snoqualmie want? Well, first of all, they wanted no native artwork, representation of culture, or use of language without an appropriate native artist or culture bearer. That's easy. We already disallow native artists from using Indigenous imagery or culture without Indigenous participation and involvement at a bare minimum. Second ask was that tribal interests be represented in the artist selection. That's relatively easy as long as project managers focused on selecting panelists for their experience, profession, geographic location, expertise, organizational affiliation, things like that. Many panelists also refuse honorariums and are strictly volunteers, thereby they receive no funds. The third point is where we started to get into some trouble. They asked that an artist from an appropriate tribe receive a commission for the project, which we can't do because of that state law that I just talked about. They can't select them because they're Indigenous, which is race, or if they're from a specific tribe, which is a national origin. Oh, and the image right there is of famous Snoqualmie Falls. If you're ever in Washington, I recommend you go see it. Twin Peaks spot especially. So what did we propose in response to this ask? Well, after we met with Snoqualmie, incorporated their feedback, Arts proposed an invitational-based artist selection process for this project. It was accepted by Snoqualmie, and we were off to the races. So interested tribes were asked to distribute the call for artists to get the scope of work and secure some nominees. We asked them to nominate 3 to 5 artists that the tribe deemed appropriate for the project and to represent them in it. And then we asked them to nominate a representative to serve on the artist selection panel. Finally, interested artists submitted a short statement of interest and up to 5 work samples to be reviewed by the panel. So how does this end up being different than selecting based off of race? So the nominations from tribal governments are based off of whatever they want. They're a sovereign nation, right? They're a government. They're able to make these determinations about what is appropriate for their needs. What we do is we select an artist based off of 3 things: whether or not they're nominated by a tribal government from a federally recognized tribe that we've been engaging with on the project, the artwork samples and the statement of interest, and then the fit for the project, site, community, etc. So we're not making the determination of who is to be considered for this project in the pool. That is the tribe up to decide. We just talk about who is appropriate based off of our standard artist selection processes. And so this method also leads us to kind of thinking about the fact that artists do not necessarily need to be native, indigenous, or members of the nominating tribe to be considered. This is a sovereign nation that knows best who can represent. But do remember, no native art without native artists. So I wanted to include this project. This is not the project in question, but this is a great example of what that kind of collaboration could look like. Oscar Tuazon's piece on the Seattle waterfront was a collaboration that ended up with working with some carvers, Ty Simmons and Keith Stevenson from Muckleshoot, and Randy Purser from Suquamish. It's a really great piece. I highly recommend you see it if you're out here. And through this process, we learned a couple of things, first and foremost being that this is a work in progress and we can always do better. Second of all, give tribes and artists plenty of time to respond to requests throughout the process. They are also understaffed and overburdened with asks, so be mindful of that. Many tribes are also gathering their own rosters of artists, but a lot of them don't have the administrative capacity to build or maintain one. So sometimes this will work straightforward. Sometimes it requires a little bit of extra research and work. Also, we learned that you really should be clear in your RFQ about the project. Make sure that the application requirements are accessible. Many of these artists may have little to no public art experience, different priorities, so hand-holding might be required. You might also want to reach out directly versus having the tribes do it. If you just get names, direct engagement might help secure more artist applications. And finally, really use this as an opportunity to build relationships. Not everything has to happen through official government-to-government consultation, and either way, it's easier to work collaboratively with strong relationships. So what did we end up with? The project is still in process, currently doing redevelopment due to some unexpected building design changes. But here's the general concept proposal as it was presented to us to our Public Art Advisory Committee quite recently. And the artist is Diane Bockingbird, who is going to be doing, these are a couple examples of her previous work, stained glass and ceramic mosaic. So utilizing traditional forms in non-traditional mediums and colors. This is one of her first and biggest exterior public art installations. So we're really excited to be working with her and she's having a blast. So yeah, that's kind of, I think I'm almost at time. So thank you all and take care.
Yay, yay. Thanks, Gary.
I think we all need hand holding. That was great. Thank you for what an incredible nuanced situation to figure out. I really love learning about it. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, who is a 2025 City of Albuquerque Bravos Award winner, Sherri Brueggemann. She has played a key role in shaping Albuquerque's artistic landscape with a career spanning public art management, cultural policy, and arts advocacy. So Sherri, I know you're on. If you can begin to share your screen, that would be great. So starting in the fine art printmaking and nonprofit gallery she started in fine art printmaking and nonprofit gallery management and coordinated Albuquerque's first Route 66 street festival in 1994. Over the years, 30 years, she's overseen major public art projects for the city of Albuquerque and Bernalillo County, securing NEA grants and managing millions of dollars in public art investments. She was a public art and urban enhancement manager since 2028, where she modernized a lot of policies and came up with a lot of really cool ideas, such as like public art trading cards. She also co-founded the Intergalactic Cultural Relations Institute, exploring the future of arts in interplanetary diplomacy. But tonight she's going to talk about the public art census. Thanks, Sherri.
Thank you. Am I sharing the right screen? Is it in presenter mode?
Yes, you look great.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Well, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And I want to thank PAX for hosting today's session. I'm going to talk about the public art census, the second one ever done in the United States behind Indianapolis. And hi, Julia. I'm so excited to share this. I want to say a big thanks to Denicia Malone, who was our census consultant, and all of the folks who worked on this project in Albuquerque for 2.5 years. And there's a couple of City of Albuquerque folks that are joining us today as well. So they're on the session now. Let's see. Oops, my screen is not advancing. Oh no. Well, let's try this. There we go. Okay, so why did we do a public art census? We did it to answer a lot of questions that our community had about public art after being in existence for about 44 years. Also, we did it because in 2021, we hosted a public art hackathon, which made us realize that you can actually have a lot of fun with public art data. So how did we do it? The most important thing is that we formed a 4-way partnership with our county public art program, Bernalillo County, Rook, the planning and design consulting firm based out of Indianapolis, and in partnership with about 50 local folks who also worked on the project here in Albuquerque in lots of different ways. One of the most important partnerships we formed were the local canvassers who literally drove every street, alley, and dirt road in our entire county, traversing nearly 20,000 miles, linear miles in their cars for almost 10 months. And this is just the first batch of canvassers that were trained. We had just over 24 of them. So what did they do while they were in their cars driving 20,000 miles in 10 months? They looked at every single piece of sort of creative expression that could be identified from the right-of-way. And they checked the condition of the work. They categorized it in terms of what it was, like a sculpture, a mural, or something else. And they looked for any sort of marks that might identify who the artist or the maker was. This slide shows a heat map of one of the apps that Denicia's team got loaded up with all of our canvassers to show how every single street and alley and dirt road in Albuquerque was traversed to make sure that we captured everything that we possibly could. Communications was one of the most important thing throughout the entire process, daily, sometimes hourly. And this is a screenshot of a group text after day 1 of all the canvassers being out on the road, saying that they had captured 300 entries into the public art census just on day 1. Here's a picture of our entire county, Bernalillo County, that also lists all of the names of the other villages or communities that are incorporated that were also traversed. This also includes 3 sets of tribal lands for which we got special permission to be on those lands to do the canvassing, as well as 2 land grants that are basically not incorporated, but they are held in trust by the families who still live there after many, many, many generations. We also got special permission for those as well. So in our census, what counted as art? We included architectural objects, we included murals, graffiti, stained glass, roadside memorials, or in New Mexico, they're known as descansos, hand-lettered signage, tactical urbanism, mosaics, all kinds of things that we couldn't necessarily put a label on, but we also included performance art, which is basically if somebody came across someone doing an outdoor performance, sort of like on their own or maybe plein air painting, with their permission, they were counted in part of the census as well. What did we find? We found 11,364 works, which is more than double our friends in Marion County around Indianapolis. So here's a plot of the way all of these artworks show up throughout our entire county. You can see that the core area listed by zip code has the most amount of public art, and it gets a little more spread out as we go out to the edges of the county. These are just the plots of the special areas, which are the tribal lands and the land grants. And here's a sample. Here's a sample of things that we captured. And so it was on private property, public property, you name it, they captured it. We had the most amount of objects were in the sculptural category, then murals. And then we did actually capture 7 examples of performing arts. Then our data analysts did a lot of overlapping the public art data with all kinds of other examples of information. So we looked at walkability, we looked at relationship to parks, to schools, to hospitals, to bus stops. We overlaid the information with general census information, including residents by race, by age, by status, like in terms of like single moms, to find out where public art was. Overall, we learned that public art is in residential areas as well as public areas. We also did another special component where we analyzed the amount of money that both the city of Albuquerque and Bernalillo County public art programs put into these different communities. That was data that we provided for the artwork that was also captured, but obviously only works of art that were funded by these 2 public art programs. So at the end of the report, it includes several calls to action for both the public art programs that we can go forward with looking at how to use this data. So it includes highlighting artist identities. Only 700 of those 11,000 works of art included signatures by artists. So why is that? Why is it that artists don't include their names on the work of art? We want to stay on top of the data collection. We also want to make sure that we ensure that there's artwork distributed equitably depending on where people live, and other sort of like no-brainers to make sure artists keep getting paid. So one of the most important things is that we now have a whole group of canvassers in our community that know how to search for and capture public art. And we hope to be able to do this again, hopefully in another 4 years, just like the human census is done, where we do incremental updates. So I understand there's more cities out there maybe talking about having this done in your community. I cannot recommend it enough.
Amazing. Wow, Sherri, really incredible.
Just before we introduce our next speaker, Sherri, congratulations on your retirement. Only you are going to take on this massive project and bring together so many people in your community to look for public art. You're just, what an inspiration. Definitely look at the chat.
So excited. I'm going to do it all over the state now that I'm retired.
So cool. I want to be a public art canvasser. What a dream role.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sherri.
Thank you all.
Our next speaker is Sara Daleiden. Sara, you want to start sharing your screen? And I apologize if I just said your last name incorrectly. So Sara Daleiden Consulting facilitates civic engagement within developing landscapes with art and cultural exchange strategies. Based in Los Angeles and Milwaukee, the business encourages local cultures to value neighborhoods, public space, and social entrepreneurship, and to prioritize racial and gender equity. Sara will be presenting the City of Santa Monica Art of Recovery Initiative Impact Report. So Sara, take it away.
Thank you very much. I have to say I'm already so inspired by all of this sharing to date. So thank you again for you organizing this. It's really meaningful. So I'm here to share what I did during the pandemic. It's called the Art of Recovery Initiative with the City of Santa Monica through the Cultural Affairs Division. And this, I'm just going to briefly go through the impact of this work over 4 years. I just want to shout out to two of my core collaborators are here also on the Zoom, Susanna Laramie Kidd, who worked on evaluation and strategy with me as a consultant, and Shannon Doubt, who formerly was the Cultural Affairs Manager, now with Regional Arts Organization. So couldn't have done any of this without the teamwork. Again, just Sophia Klatsker and Allison Ostrovsky are currently still at Cultural Affairs keeping this initiative going. Oh, let me hit this. There we go. So we asked ourselves this question: what happens when you give artists and arts producers space and support to develop projects and partnerships that revive communities and economies impacted by our global pandemic? So again, we did this from 2020 to 2024. What happened for us? So one of the big outputs for me is where we landed. We actually affected how City Council defined strategic priorities. Now these are used to guide the initiative. There were other influences as well, but just from where we started with initiative priorities to where this landed, clean and safe, addressing homelessness, economic growth and cultural vitality, justice, equity, and diversity, and sustainable and connected. So again, this was primarily temporary public art investment, and we were looking at how could we create new commissions and invest particularly in making sure that artists and arts producers were being paid livable wages while we did this work.
Sara, I just want to jump in because your slides are not advancing. You're still on
They're not
slide
advancing. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you're on 2. Now,
Okay.
yeah, 2. Okay.
But yeah, you're not in the presentation view, so that's why it's not
Oh, I just
advancing.
was in it myself. Maybe it just wasn't following.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me try it this way.
There you go.
Way
Yes, better.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so who are we involved with? Again, it's pandemic times. This still might hold true, but we really focus on artists and arts producers both in the city of Santa Monica as well as Los Angeles County, and also how we could have effect and interaction with residents and neighbors who actually were in the city. The total contribution was $2 million. It was a combination again of direct city funding with other partner funding that was leveraged. We had 82 projects. Again, primarily these were all occurring in public space, although some also occurred online. They had multiple components like in-person events, exhibitions and installations, street activations, media projects, and online activations. For us, again, a big part of this was getting 792 creatives paid, a combination of artists or other kinds of arts producers and creatives, some that had worked in temporary public art before and some that had not. But again, the idea that they actually were getting, again, the labor covered sufficiently as well as production amounts for new commissions. And again, the partnership base that grew from all of this was also one of our big discoveries. So 297 partners besides the creatives came from a range of sectors, nonprofit, for-profit, inside the government itself. Part of the main output, in addition to actual projects, was all the partnerships that, again, many of them have kept performing. So what I wanted to just particularly focus on, just giving you that quick overview, was, we work, particularly Susanna and I worked again with Shannon and some of our other partners at the city to develop multiple ways that we were evaluating and reflecting all the way along the way so that we could create learning communities. And so some of what I'm going to show here was just the results of creating that feedback loop where both whoever was the primary producer, again, whether that was an artist or it was another kind of partner, but other members of the team that just literally made the partnership come to life. That's who we ended up doing some of this evaluation work through a lot of, again, learning community sessions and our own way of having evaluation reporting that happened. So I'll just give an example. This is Santa Monica Rep Theater. Tanya White, who's in the upper left here, was the artistic director. This is the repertory theater, and they moved online to do a series of storytelling projects with any number of neighbors actually in Santa Monica, some of whom were artists and creatives, some were not. So again, reporting back out, even just Tanya's an example of 93% of people involved gained an understanding of the process of working with the city of Santa Monica, made new connections with other arts professionals, and just really feel like they deepened their understanding of art and public space. This did lead to some in-person performances later, but it also led to a connection that was new for Santa Monica Rep with the city communication channels. So again, we worked in cultural affairs to negotiate, how could some of the storytelling actually happen through the way the city was doing some of its broader communications. So again, just activating a new public resource to this kind of art of recovery purpose. Another area for us in financial and business, this is a project by Marnie Gittleman called What 6 Feet. It was very early on in the pandemic. Was this really a social media project? Again, was an Instagram handle of What 6 Feet, but also that the signage showed up, again, in a really broad range of sites. So, Marnie, again, just an example of one of our artists who said that, her project allowed attracting and press and other social media attention for them and their organization more than they had experienced before. Here 87% said the project connected them to partners they hadn't worked before. Here Marnie is at Santa Monica Pier, one of our major tourist sites, but also public park spaces on the beaches. But again, a lot of different for-profit and nonprofits participated in this. And Marnie was able to hire a team. That was part of what was particularly significant, again, that she was able to have that connection with other artists and creatives while producing this work that actually existed all over the city, as well city sites as well as online. And last, I'm just going to show you one other example. This one of our other categories was social and emotional impact. This was downtown Santa Monica as a business improvement district, has one of our main retail areas. It's an 3rd Street Promenade. It's an outdoor walking mall. This, again, by the first year or two of this program, we were navigating the effects of the Black Lives Matter protesting and just public awareness building that was happening. 3rd Street Promenade was one of the places that was really affected by a lot of that street activity. So this was on a subsequent year for Black History Month, downtown Santa Monica worked with property owners to produce a number of these storefront projects, this by an artist named Splinton. So again, artists saying, as well as the business improvement district that really built a lot of its muscle to be able to do this kind of work, saying that they just still felt like they were able to make artworks that created a strong visual or sensory experience, connecting in with other participants, and just, again, having the opportunity to explore a specific site, business organization in Santa Monica. So again, just that all this led to people taking some risks together at a time when there was such a sense of unknown. I know for myself with all of this, it's just really led me to thinking a lot about how any of these learnings are a toolbox that we can be using all the time. In Los Angeles specifically, we're still navigating a new layer of recovery, given a lot of the nature crisis we went through this winter with the wildfires and winds. But the point is just that we're all navigating change in a variety of ways, including how our climate and lands are getting affected. So thinking again about like how do we work on investing partners? Yes, thank you. Oh wow, applause.
Applause, you got it. You got the applause.
Thank you, Sarah. That's your time.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
All right,
Sarah.
Renee.
So Tiva Dawson. All right, get into presenter view while I read your bio. Tiva Dawson began her career path of invention by designing her own major in environmental education from Drake University, which led to the creation of Des Moines' first community garden program and Greater Des Moines' first water trails and greenways plan. Tiva invested 20 years fostering regional government collaboration, implementing civic engagement and integrated planning with cities around the themes of parks, transportation, resiliency, and health. She founded Group Creative Studio Services in 2018 to advance the role of artists in addressing community needs. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm here today to talk about how a thoughtful art and culture plan led to a national commemoration of the 70th anniversary of the landmark Supreme Court decision Brown v. Board through a public art experience. Yeah, I'm Tiva again, and I have Group Creative Services, a public art consultancy based out of the Midwest. We have three main areas of work. We do public art installations. We help bring artists in as problem solvers for community and economic development processes. And kind of the core of what I'm talking about today is plans, art and culture plans that activate larger municipal goals. A few years ago, Arts Connect, a Topeka nonprofit arts organization, invited us to harness the rich cultural heritage with an art and culture plan for the city of Topeka. Sara, who's the executive director, is actually joining us today on the call. Hello, Sara. A little context, Kansas, since its inception, has been home to bitter arguments about equality, narrowly becoming a free state in 1861, leading the fight for women's suffrage, ending school segregation in the 50s, and fighting for queer rights even today. And Topeka specifically, if you look at its demographic and economic data, it's a city with stagnant incomes, population growth is stagnant, relatively high crime rate. Some of these metrics help to explain a lack of civic pride. And so we're here to see how can art and culture plan help aspire to building a beautiful, welcoming, and connected Topeka that can directly address those community challenges, perception issues of crime, division and lack of opportunity, as well as young people leaving town. Our plans have three key phases, a traditional strategic kind of planning process. First one's just discovery, really understanding the landscape, both the arts ecosystem landscape, but also just what's happening across the city from city civic initiatives. Understanding, kind of analyzing what's at the tipping point, what are the key assets in this community, and just what do the arts need to do to help advance where the city's at in general. The recommendations for Topeka kind of came out in three main areas. Really, what are its placemaking themes, and what are the opportunities to advance those with detailed recommendations. How to advance Arts Connect as a local arts agency, really having a stronger foothold as a public arts agency, as well as how to think about more resources in the community to advance the arts. And then really a key portion of all of our plans is this fourth phase, demonstrating how arts can have social impact and really forging new paths. So it's more than adornment, but really there in conversation with larger civic goals. A number of projects were kind of nominated for demonstration, but what quickly kind of came to the top was anticipating the 70th anniversary of Brown v. Board Supreme Court decision, the Brown family or Topekan family. And when the Convention and Visitors Bureau director was in the planning process and quickly saw what the power of arts could do and came up and said, let's see what art can do to celebrate and commemorate this anniversary. Their money was matched then with an NEA grant. We went through traditional selection process. Unlike Seattle, we were able to make race a central part of selection process for artists. We had paid 3 artists for their concepts, and Vanessa German was the one that was awarded the commission. She's a renowned citizen artist. She worked in residence in Topeka alongside members of the community over the course of a year to create a touring museum of multimedia sculptures and spoken word operetta that was presented last May on the 70th anniversary of this landmark case. Again, she's really adept at co-creating, really embedding into the community. So she had workshops, site visits, interviews. There are Topekans that are still alive that were part of that original desegregation. She heard all of those stories and really helped to create an installation that embodied those stories from the plaintiffs and others who were affected. She really held space for everybody. I remember hearing one participant on a way out of a program say to his partner, I don't know what it is about Vanessa, but every time I'm around her, I cry. And it really was said in just such an adoring way that she just had a transformational way of holding space for community. So no matter the product, the process was really important. But the product had two main of her work was two key areas: installations. It was a touring installation called Craving the Light. It premiered at the Mulvane Art Museum in last May, and then it was reinstalled in the Overland Station. It was up for a year. In the upper right, it's called The Child Plaintiffs as Power Figures. So she kind of used those original plaintiffs and created power figures like courage and play, love and hope. And she put them up on pedestals, so we all would have to look up to them. And the second key thing was The Way of Light, spoken word operetta performed by a mass choir. Intergenerational, multiracial choir. It was professionally recorded, licensed, and will be submitted to a Grammy consideration for spoken word category. It was a full house in the auditorium, and I could just tell as a participant in that, it was, again, very transformational to be part of witnessing that. As you all know, it's hard to sometimes measure the impact of public art. There's some traditional metrics like what kind of news coverage it got. So there was national news coverage there. But really, I think the harder part is probably still unfolding for Topeka, is what it meant for the community to be able to be part of this larger activation that was very healing. This little quote, if we have time for it, will tell you how she came to name her artwork. And I'm going to just add to this that her additional artist statement: "We are the living commemoration. We offer this commemoration as a creative expression of King's beloved community. We listen, we create. This is mending as transformation, commemoration as realization, community as love." Thank you for letting me share this amazing story.
Yay! Thank you, Tiva. Thank you for sharing with us. Our next presenter, starting to share the screen, is Daniel Arrigue, who's the founder and creative director of Irregular. Daniel, are you there? There you are. Okay.
Hello.
Hello. So Irregular was founded in Montreal in 2010. It's a digital art studio creating audiovisual installations, large-scale sculptures, architectural projections, and scenographies with a focus on interactive and immersive experiences. At the crossroads between art and technologies, these artworks experiment with geometry, light, sound, typography, mathematics, algorithm, and communication protocols, AI, and machine learning. Irregular also develops its own proprietary technologies. The studio works with the infinite and random combinations produced by interactive systems that the audience ultimately influences and transforms. The interaction is at the core of it all. It is only the relationship between the people and the piece that finalizes the artwork and gives it meaning. So Daniel, you'll be presenting Fortunes. Take it away.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the introduction and for the invitation. So my name is Daniel Irregue. I'm the creative director and the founder of Irregular. And let me tell you about the studio first. So as we watch this video, well, as the introduction, as you heard in the introduction, we are all about creating interactive experiences. And as in the text said, the interaction is at the core of everything. We really only do that. And that means that we're constantly looking on ways to interact with the audience, to bring the audience into our work. And we do that by just, in a way, like sort of on technologies, creating concepts and creating formats that allow us to do that. What you're looking at is a reel of 15 years of work. Actually, last week we turned 15, so we're sort of in celebration mode at the studio. And yeah, there's definitely focus on technology. We have 4 software developers. We're 12 people. 4 of them are software developers, including myself. So we have that sort of a skill set in the studio, allowing us to create our own tools, which I'm gonna briefly tell you about very soon. But basically, that allows us allows us to use our own tracking softwares and our own sound softwares to create that. So what I want to talk to you about today is an exhibition called Fortunes, which is 5 monoliths in public space. As you can see there, this is how we presented it in Montreal. And Fortunes is a piece that we wanted to do to invite people to use the whole body. And something very important about interaction is like how to make pieces that are very clear for the audience what's their effect on the piece. So when you use your shape, or when you're touching something and the effect is under your finger, it's very clear. But when you're using your body, unless it starts to resemble the body shape, it starts to be very difficult. And this is exactly a challenge we want to put ourselves in this challenge: how to make body interaction that it's very clear without having to go very clear, very close to the body shape. So this is basically a bit how it looks. Before I tell you the details of the piece, the tracking is done by AI. This is, for us, AI saved us. We were trying to do a lot of tracking of a lot of people in public space, where we can do it in the night, in the day, and everything. And sensors are very hard. But then AI came in, and it allows the computer to, just by looking at an image, to tell us where the body of people are. So that's what we use to control the shapes. Fortunes is 5 pieces, and each one, like the overarching concept is luck. And something that it's very important for us is the random encounters of our work with the audience. There's because people are interacting and we don't know what they're gonna do. There's a random aspect that with everything that we create. But also we embed randomness into the software itself. So the result, we always want to make it surprising for people, but also for us. So that's thinking about, okay, well, if we work out a lot with randomness, so what makes certain events happen more than others? And we started to, just for, to think about luck and these 5 different concepts of how different sciences see luck. So, like sociology, science, math, psychology, and theology. So with this in mind, we start to create different experiences. So this is self-fulfilling prophecy, but of course it's very abstract concept-wise, but this just allows us to imagine what will make sense. But like besides the concept, what we really wanted to do is push people to move in ways that they normally wouldn't do it, especially in public space. And create this dialogue that it's very clear that you're dancing with the piece or dancing with yourself. The more you abstract the human body, more difficult it is. So we wanted to sort of have this gradient of different interpretations. This is, the more abstract we went. This is serendipity. And well, as you can see, it's once we establish what are the rules, what people can do, then it's easy to understand. This is chaos theory. Again, we wanted expression, and this is synchronicity. We wanted to make sure that people could just explore and just don't feel that there's a right or wrong. Every movement was welcomed and would have a clear reaction. This is fate. There's something also important about multi-user. We always need to solve this aspect. So as you can see, when there's 2 people, we divide the graphics, and sometimes we put them together. There's something very important about the work. It's called the idle mode. This is the state where nobody's interacting. This is where we invite people to jump in. So it's a very important state for us. So this is how the pieces were looking like when nobody was there. And just quickly to wrap up, so I don't go over my time. This is a few more slides. Night and day, of course. It's more the technology behind making something be calibrated for day and night is quite difficult. So that's something we spend a lot of time working on, making sure the camera and the calibration of the software works in both conditions. Kids also, we make sure that it's not easy to track a small person, but we're able to do it. And finally, we are always thinking about modularity. 5 monoliths in Montreal was great, but not all venues can host us like that. So we have other module configurations that we are able to present this piece. And that's it. It's currently touring. So if you have any opportunities, it will be great to talk to you. Thank you.
Woohoo. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. So great to get deep dive into one of your many projects. So thank you. Next speaker, Helen Lessig. You're next. Start to share your screen and I will read your bio. Helen is an artist, writer, and public art catalyst in Los Angeles. Born in Philadelphia, she earned her BA in art from Reed College and MFA from the University of California, Irvine. She has won Paul Krasner and Bonnie Bronson Fellowships, Art Matters grants, and American Academy of Arts and Letters funding. Her work is in the Getty Research Institute, Museum of Modern Art in New York, Nevada Museum of Art, and other institutional and civic collections. Her public artist expeditions have been with Taliesin West, Frank Lloyd Wright School of Architecture, Australia's BIGCI, I'm not going to try to say that, France's Art 3, and oh God, Kunkwe Design Initiative in Kenya. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Thanks, Helen.
Why, thank you, Renee, and thank you all you beautiful, smart people for sharing your work. What an exciting field we have. I am going to talk about something completely different than irregular. This is the Spiral Carnival. And my Spiral Carnival is an artist-initiated project collaborating and interacting with the non-human. The Spiral Carnival was a temporary installation in Lake County, Oregon, South Central Oregon, part of the high desert of the Great Basin in the American West. Here's a map of what you'll see. The Great Basin is a geological depression. Essentially, it covers most of the state of Nevada, but it spills into Idaho, Utah, California, and Death Valley National Park, and up into Oregon in Lake County and Harney Basin. What I was doing here was a residency at a place called Playa Summer Lake. It's an art and science residency, really catering to more, mostly to writers and
Helen,
to science.
I'm so sorry. You have not shared a screen yet. Do you know that?
I have shared my screen.
We are not seeing it.
Okay, I am so sorry.
Laura, can we give Helen a do-over?
Yes.
Okay.
There.
Is that allowed, Laura?
Now we can see your screen now.
Now we see your sides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then there you go. Well,
I
then
was just so absorbed in what you were saying. I was like, oh wait, I think Helen thinks she's supposed to be showing pictures right now.
Helen was showing pictures of herself.
Sorry.
Because my collaboration is an interaction with the non-human. My audience is here right on your screen. So the Spiral Carnival is a artist-initiated project in South Central Oregon, a remote part of the Great Basin Desert. Here is a map that I was speaking about. The Great Basin is a geological formation that takes up most of the state of Nevada and goes into Utah, California, Idaho, and Oregon. Much of the land here in the West is owned by the federal government. About 80% of Nevada, about 40% of California, and about 60% of the state of Oregon are under the auspices of the Bureau of Land Management. And the Bureau of Land Management is the steward of America's public land for the benefit of all Americans. My residency was here in Lake County, a place called Harney Basin, which is really a dry lake up on the upper side of this Great Basin, the northern lobe of it. east of Crater Lake National Park, west of the Idaho border. This is the Spiral Carnival. This is an artist-initiated project of celebrating the life that is in the Great Basin Desert. It comprised of 300 customized flags, these triangular pennants that are on wooden poles in a coil-shaped spiral that centers on a small big top. It was a project to create a recreational space for subterranean life. And the life I am celebrating here are nematodes. Now, I've been working with science and soil, plants, and life in the underground for over 35 years. This project was really looking at who creates the soil in our communities. This is the nematode is a roundworm, not an unsegmented roundworm, not like earthworms, but worms that create and digest detritus from plants, from our skin cells, from dropping bird feathers and beetle wings, that really that really create the soils that we live on. They are ever present. They are present in your household plants. They are present underneath your sidewalk, and they are present in the Spiral Carnival. Here is the project looking back towards the mountains outside of Lake County. The biggest town nearby is Summer Lake. The bigger town is Lakeview, Oregon. The project, as I said, comprised of 300 of these flags that are printed and this central big top. Whoops. Here is a detail of the big top. It's about 2 feet tall, the entire work, 75 feet by 75 feet. And the project did have an audience, not just of the nematodes who were coming in from the underground lake. A playa is a Spanish term for a beach. This beach has water that is subterranean. There's constant fog rising. This is a muddy plain that moves out from the Great Basin that can be washed out in a day and then built up with these sand and salt deposits. And it is at 4,500 feet. So the Great Basin tilts from southern Oregon down to Death Valley, which is, of course, about 200 feet below sea level. These works of flags were activated by the constant wind. Here you see how the flags move differently. I chose fabrics of different weight. So the lilac flags wave differently than translucent copper and silver ones. They were printed in Oregon. There are decals on some of the flags. The project really was celebrating the life and times of nematodes, which created the soil that we are on. To advertise for this project, I actually went to the BLM representatives in the area, which included a wildlife refuge, a hunting range, and of course, the general store that's up the street. The general store owner, I asked him, took a flag and said, "Can I put this up?" Wanted to tell people about my project. This is public land. Anyone can walk on it, not supposed to drive through it, but they do. But it was an open site that was visible from the road and moved with the wind. And I think the best reaction to my project was the owner saying, okay, put it up. It'll confuse them. It looks like Worm University. And it does. And it does. I'm pleased to say that Spiral Carnival was made with great success. It was accessioned. I presented it to the Nevada Museum of Art Center for Art and Ecology, and it is now in their archive, which is used as a study tool for scientists and artists looking at art of the West. The nematode is part of the community that I think really works to sidestep existing technologies of capitalism, of taking resources from the land, but creates the land and works with the land even after we're gone. I think one of the important things that I am taking from this lecture series is that recovery is a toolbox. And by showing up in truly rural environments, speaking to people who may not share our political views, our interests, or our sense of purpose in the work and thinking of artists, it is really important that we reach out to them, show them that we are paying attention and that we're all in the Bureau of Public Lands together. Thank you.
Yay! Thank you, Helen.
I know, I'm brief, but I hope it pays off in the end of this.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. Hooray for nematodes. All right, thank you so much. Our next presenter is Jay. Jay, let's start sharing your screen with us.
Hey, we'll take it back to the urban. As a gardener, I appreciate the worms, Helen, a great deal.
All right, well, you're getting started. I'll give you an introduction, and I'm gonna like completely, I think, not say your last name correctly. So I'm just gonna let you say it in a minute. So this is Jay, artist and owner of Mosaic Workshop. Jay is a public artist dedicated to building community through murals and mosaics. Originally from Houston and a University of Texas graduate in sociology, Jay has lived and created artwork abroad from Japan to New Zealand and beyond. Now based in Austin, Texas, he focuses on teaching, mentoring, and creating spaces for artists to uplift each other. Jay has created over 24 large-scale mosaics and co-founded the Mosaic Workshop, an artist-run mosaic studio in East Austin. Throughout many projects, Jay invites community members of all ages and abilities to help lay tiles in massive mosaic murals. And tonight, presenting the heartbeat of Austin Mosaic.
All right, thanks so much. Can you hear me okay and see the screen?
Yes, but we can also see your notes.
Uh-oh. Let me see if I can share a different one. This one? Entire screen, browser. It's presenter view. That one, this one. Okay.
There you go. All right.
All right, okay. Get on my notes. All right. So yeah, like you mentioned, I'm Jay and living in Austin, Texas, co-founder of the Mosaic Workshop. We teach mosaic classes, host events, fabricate large-scale community murals. I've been an artist in murals for about 20 years, alongside being an art teacher with lots of other odd jobs in between, and been doing mosaics in quote-unquote public art for about the last 7 or 8 years. So I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite projects to date, the Heartbeat of Austin. It's in Cap Metro's McCalla Station next to the Q2 Stadium where the Austin FC soccer team plays. So I applied for the call as an RFQ and I won the commission based on my community mural experience and specifically that of large-scale mosaic mural installations of comparable scale. I dug into researching the area and I didn't have to look too far since the stadium is right there behind the station. And a few years prior, the FC soccer team had just open that stadium, so it felt appropriate subject matter for sort of the placekeeping of the space. Meeting Rigo and a few other staunch Day One supporters of the club and being invited to the weekly band practice of La Murga, which you'll see inspired the piece, just outside the stadium, helping to paint these massive tifo murals. They're the murals that go up like at the beginning of the game, so two-minute like massive murals. And then standing under the drum section, getting drenched in water, beer, and even nachos flung wildly as the team scored a goal. That was the spirit, the dedication, and the creative energy and sort of chaos, in essence, what ultimately inspired the composition. So the models I chose to depict are taken from an archive of images from photo and video from the first few years of the football club's inception, taken by a handful of professional and hobbyist photographers and videographers from within the groups, trying to capture that intimacy and raw emotion. And I wanted to show through a series of diverse angles and expressions, the joy, conviction, optimism, passion, and real drive of the community members, but representative of creativity and innovation across Austin as a whole. So Fatima here shown was the youngest capo cheerleader who's like on the stands leading the chants. She exuded what I thought was a very powerful poise and youthful optimism that felt universal and timeless and helped to anchor the whole design in that spirit. And here you can see Coco energetically translated into mosaic. She worked for Cap Metro for 27 years, being a driver and other various roles in the company. And two otherwise disparate concepts, sort of the FC supporters and the Cap Metro transit workers, blended together seamlessly across the expanse of the composition and sort of spoke to the intergenerational and cultural diversity of Austin. And celebrating everyday heroes in this way, I feel, is a bold statement that I'm very thankful to Cap Metro as the commissioning entity that was willing to support. And seeing the emotional responses of friends and family when they saw their mothers, daughters, husbands, brothers, and friends on the wall was a feeling like no other. And it was an honor and great privilege for me to be able to play that integral role in catalyzing and bringing to life this profound public recognition for lots of different folks. So I got a little video clip showing some behind the scenes.
The challenge of public art being so permanent is how to make something truly timeless, but still being a monument to the things that we want to represent. The Heartbeat of Austin mural depicts La Murga de Austin, one of the most passionate Austin FC supported groups, right alongside Cap Metro transit workers like Ernie and Coco, who've been with the company for years, these everyday heroes that are truly the heartbeat of our city. So while these are just faces made of little glass tiles on a wall, they represent so much more. They represent each and every one of us. And I hope that Austinites for generations to come can see themselves in one another.
So workdays at our studio and elsewhere brought together soccer fans, friends of our studio, Greater Austin residents in general, any of whom who wanted to lend a hand for an hour or two. And these workdays, with all the clinking of the glass tiles into the grids and shuffling of templates that we prepare beforehand, turn into memorable social gatherings and instilling in people the power to shape our shared environment and to have a literal hand in building a modern monument for the city, which people will enjoy and celebrate indefinitely into the future for years to come. And here we got a couple little other snaps from the work days and the unveiling ceremony with the supporters come out and the staff and the families checking out for the first time. Even the construction team of the station came out to celebrate it. And every home game, thousands of people ride the train from all over town to the station. They can walk by the mural before the game. And it sort of encapsulates the anticipation and emotion of the wins while hopefully uplifting after any losses as well. So a few fun facts about the project is we were able to invite over 200 community volunteers to help place just over 120,000 3/4-inch glass tiles into the 650 square foot composition. And designing for this pixelated digital impressionism, as we call it, developed over years of trial and error. My first project was for a courthouse in Georgetown, Texas in 2018, doing a lot of Photoshop copy and pasting. And now I work with an awesome studio designer, Zoe, who's developed more streamlined exporting and automation of the templates and really saves days behind the computer, which gets us to the fun part more quickly, that is actually playing with glass tiles in a room full of people. And it's like a big puzzle that we're building stronger community connections all along the way, building the piece. So the installation, our model is pretty turnkey. We do it from start to finish, from the administrative stuff, coordination, design, to the dirty days of installation, slopping up thinset and smearing grout all over the place. It takes a solid team working in rhythm to put up a mosaic of this scale smoothly and efficiently, and we have a great flow as friends and collaborators, which is really our superpower and representative of our core ethos. And more recently, we're also embarking on fabrication and installation for other artists and designers to imagine their vision in public art for the region. So in conclusion, this idea of a community-built mosaic quilt where we embrace the inevitable imperfections and glitches of our time and leaning into this sort of impressionism using pixels of glass, we're constantly seeking more ways to weave together people and pattern. Icons and ideas align with the centuries-old American quilting tradition. And to rally hundreds of people around a shared vision and put the call out for a communal effort to reach towards these ambitious goals, some real mosaic magic happens along the way as we're in essence stitching together by hand so many important stories to be cemented into the urban landscape and thus etched into our collective memory, hopefully creating a more vibrant and inclusive city one tile at a time. So thank you very much. And if you want to connect, there's my socials, JMusac, ATX Mosaic Workshop, and come visit if you're ever in Austin. Thank you.
Hooray! Thank you so much. Thank you for that great presentation. Y'all, we have 2 more presentations, so hang with us.
Yeah, exactly. Jay, thank you so much. I put the link to that project in the chat. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
check it out and your other work too. All right, next speaker, Magdalena Poost. Are you here with us?
I am.
Awesome. Okay, go ahead and share your screen and I'll introduce you as the Public Art and Ecology Fellow from the Rose Kennedy Greenway Conservancy, a position funded by the High Meadow Environmental Institute to expand climate adaptive research within Boston's cultural sector. Poost holds a BA in Socio-Cultural Anthropology and Environmental Studies from Princeton University. Their work has been featured in BK Mag, the Nassau Literary Review, and at the 2023 Association for Study of Literature and the Environment Conference. They are an artist, researcher, and clown. They are interested in the study of shared and public space as the site of material memory, public narrative, climate change, and potential queer futures. Looking forward to your presentation.
Yay. Okay. I hope this goes smoothly and I hope it advances. I'm really excited to be here. And I've loved listening to every project so far. My name is Magdalena. I am, as was stated, the Public Art and Ecology Fellow at the Rose Kennedy Greenway Conservancy, which is a public park right in the center of downtown Boston. And today I just want to talk to you about what we're calling our Green Values Initiative, which is a project we've been working on for the past 1.5 years. But I want to start by making an assertion that the climate crisis is as much a cultural crisis as it is an ecological one. And sort of what I mean by that, and what we are thinking a lot about at the park where I work, is that the stories we tell shape our physical landscapes just as much as our built environment shapes the types of stories that we are able to tell. And so I'm going to read aloud a couple questions which are guiding the work that I do and our team in general. What does it mean to make something site-specific while the ground is shifting beneath your feet? What does public art do, look like, grow, decay, alchemize when it is made in conversation with the climate crisis? What sort of shared space do you dream of? What are ways that public art and infrastructure can knit our present reality with our futures? So there's an environmental humanities scholar named Clara Welch who writes about infrastructure as a performance of our values. So a materialization of how we choose to shape our relationship with the environment, how we move through it, tend to it, and gather within our built environment. And in this framing, public art operates as sort of what we call an infrastructure of the imagination, offering interventions into the structures that we have inherited so that maybe they can instead reflect a way of being in relationship with our ecosystems that's climate conscious, adaptive, and informed. And we try to stay away from the word sustainability at the Greenway because it sort of implies a maintenance of a status quo, where we're really interested in experimenting with the climate emergency as a moment of transformation and eruption. And so my role at the Greenway is to think specifically, critically, and materially about these questions and how we can move from sort of these big ideas to tangible, actionable steps that we can make as a cultural institution which produces public art pieces, sculptures, and murals. And so I'm just going to briefly go through the big research areas that we're focused on, and then I'm going to focus on one intervention that we've been experimenting with since last year. And so the big 5 buckets of research that we've been working within are materials, transportation, ecosystem interaction, resource sharing, and afterlives. So one of the changes we have made is to assess the materials that we are working with our fabricators, and to specifically to assess their carbon intensity and instead incorporate more organic materials like soil and indigo. And this slide has our roster of public art that we produced last summer. And in the bottom right, you can see a sculpture that was produced almost entirely using compressed earth blocks. And so we're really interested in exploring alternative substances that we can, that allow new ways of producing art. We've also instituted regular check-ins with our on-staff horticulturalists to assess what ecological interactions are happening once these sculptures are in the park. And we also include ecological remediation as a budgetary line item on every project, which is a change we recently made. We likewise have started including the idea of afterlives planning in the very early phases of ideation for each public art project that we produce. And so basically what I mean by that is as we are in the creation and ideation phase for every piece, we're also asking what happens to the artwork once it's deinstalled from the park. Whether that be a question of materials, in the case of sculptures, like are we going to recycle this? Is it going to have a new home? Or be it in the case of murals, how is this effect resounding and what sort of calls for action are in place? One intervention that I'm going to highlight today, however, is our Eco Art Cart, which is a seasonal, we just had our first one for this year yesterday to celebrate Earth Day, weekly pop-up art making and ecosystem learning space that we host in the park. And so essentially what we do is each week I work with our horticulturalists in the park to identify an endemic and usually endangered species which is in bloom in the park at that moment. And then we take this wooden cart out into the park that's filled with recycled and salvaged materials. And you can see me there in my sort of clown garb. And I ask passersby if they have seen this plant, if they know this plant, if they've heard of this plant. And usually the answer is no. And in that circumstance, then they are presented with a menu of prompts. And basically the idea is that they then create some sort of art in response to the name of this plant, that they don't know what it looks like. And it can be visual art, it can be a performance of some sort, it can be, they can tell me a joke, but they have to create something in relationship to the plant that they're learning about. And then after they have presented this offering, I share with them a resource sheet for learning about the characteristics of the plant, its history, its usages traditionally, and I don't tell them where it's found in the park. And instead I invite them to move through the park and see if they can find it. And what that does is it sort of encourages people to move through the space in a different way with different tools for noticing and paying attention. So these are just some images of pop-ups that we had last year. And these are some of the artworks that people made in response to the unidentified plants. And we've had great success with this, and I think largely it is due to the fact that it's an act of resistance to dawdle and to sit and to notice and to move slowly, especially in this park, which the Rose Kennedy Greenway is a reclaimed highway that runs straight through the financial district of Boston. So it's a space that sort of epitomizes this need for optimization and movement and quickness. And so instead inviting people and giving them the tools to understand their environments in a new and slower way, perhaps, I think is just a powerful reminder about the purpose for us of producing public art. And I want to end by saying that the question that we're exploring isn't how to produce more sustainable public art, but instead how we can understand public art as a tool for deepening our relationship with the earth. And so this is our information, and that is my presentation.
Yay! Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, friends, we are at the final presentation of the evening. Britt, Rue, if you want to start sharing your screen, I will introduce you. Britt is the executive director of Commonwealth Murals. And she's an experienced mural project manager dedicated to strengthening and transforming communities through creative placemaking and placekeeping. Britt has led over 90 mural projects, raised over $1.7 million for public art, and in collaboration with Greta McLean, provided training to more than 100 artists and teachers in the good space method of community mural making. With 20 years in nonprofit leadership, Britt's work focuses on using art to empower neighborhoods and drive lasting social and economic change. She holds a BA in community development and an MBA from UMass. she'll be presenting the Reclaiming a Legacy project. So Britt, take us away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for sticking this out to the end. It's been super inspiring to hear all of your projects. So thank you for listening to mine. So this project is grounded in the legacy of AfriCobra, which was formed in 1968 and stands for the African Commune of Bad Revolutionary Artists, which was dedicated to creating art not for galleries and critics, but for the empowerment of Black communities. It was one of the most influential visual arts organization in the Black arts movement. And in the early 1970s, celebrated AfriCobra artist and professor Nelson Stevens led a groundbreaking mural project in the Mason Square neighborhood of Springfield, Massachusetts. Working with his students, they painted 37 murals over 3 summers, including 4 that he designed and painted himself. This remarkable project made Springfield home to the only collection of AfriCobra murals in the world. However, within a few years, all but 2 of the murals had been painted over or destroyed, often intentionally by the city government, including the 4 murals that Mr. Stevens designed and painted himself. When they were destroyed, it was more than a loss of beautiful art. It was a cultural inheritance erased and a source of community well-being, stripped away from generations who needed to see themselves reflected in their cityscape and public spaces. Of course, as you know, this erasure was not unique to Springfield, but occurred and still occurs across the country, disproportionately impacting low-income, BIPOC, and other marginalized communities. So the Restoring a Legacy project is a model for redressing that harm and empowering a new generation of artists to create public art that represents and uplifts their communities. Beginning in 2021, I began working with Nelson Stevens to recreate his murals back in the neighborhoods where they were originally painted. Tragically, he passed away just a few months before work started on the first mural that we were recreating. So artistic direction of the project was taken over by Napoleon Jones Henderson, a fellow AfriCobra member and lifelong friend of Nelson Stevens, assisted by Greta McLean of Good Space Murals. Between 2022 and 2024, we restored 3 of Stevens' murals. This is Tribute to Black Women, which was originally painted in 1972, and it was intentionally whitewashed by the city a year later, and it was restored in 2022. The Wall of Black Music, painted in 1973, was destroyed when the building was torn down, and it was also recreated in 2022. And The Old, the Young, the Beautiful, which was painted in 1974, was painted over several years later, and we recreated it 50 years later in 2024. Further aligning this project with its mission of cultural reparations and empowerment, this project was also an investment in local artists. The mural recreations were embedded in 2 training programs, providing 20 emerging muralists with in-depth, hands-on instruction in the Good Space method of community-engaged mural creation. In contrast with most professional arts training, which require the artist to pay, with the support of funding from a Public Art for Spatial Justice grant from the New England Foundation for the Arts, we removed financial barriers by providing all of the selected artists with a stipend for their participation in the project. Using the Good Space method, the mural designs based on photographs we had from the 70s were turned into giant paint by numbers on mural fabric. This allowed all 3 murals to be painted collaboratively by the artist trainees and hundreds of Springfield residents, including many with personal connections to Mr. Stevens and the original murals. After the painting is complete, the panels are permanently installed on the wall. And when finished, they look as if they had been painted there. And murals made in this way last longer and weather better than murals that are painted directly on the wall. So now the 3 recreated Nelson Stevens murals are permanently restored to the neighborhood where they were originally painted and are seen by tens of thousands of people every day. The recreation of the 3 murals, the training of 20 artists, the involvement of hundreds of community volunteers was all accomplished with just over $100,000, 60% of which went to 2 artists. I thought I'd include that because I always wonder when I'm learning about projects, how much did that cost? And in closing, I would say that this project was much more than creating decorative public art. It was a collective community honoring and a commitment to this neighborhood and its important artistic heritage. And it was a tangible investment in the people and processes that extend that heritage into the future. And if you have historic murals that you would like to recreate or artists that you would like to train in community mural making, we travel, and that's my contact information. I will also share in the chat, there was a mini doc made of this project. So if you want to learn more, you can watch that. And thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. Amazing. Thank you, Britt, for
That was
closing
great.
out. Thank you, everybody, for staying and learning. What a fantastic collection of work that has been accomplished this past year. So really, really appreciate everybody. We will share the recording with on Public Art Exchange. If you aren't already a member of Public Art Exchange, it is free to join publicartexchange.org to get access to resources and to additional programming.
Laura, is the video also going to be on our YouTube channel?
Yes.
All right.
Sure will.
All right, awesome. I just want to give another plug for participation in PAX. I just really, our community's been together, this co-op of people who are fans of public art for a couple of years now, and it really relies on public participation, right? On our colleagues' participation. So get involved on the website or on our listserv. Laura and I and a couple others work on programming. If you have an idea for a program, let us know. And we are working on an in-person event, hopefully to Boston later this year. Stay tuned about more details. But yeah, please join us on PAX. We'd love to have you participating more.
Yeah.
So
give yourselves a round of applause. Everybody gets applause. All right. Thank you all so much for coming.
Take care.